You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Here's your host with today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Thank you for joining us for another edition. Please get your Narcan, get it, keep it in your car, put it in your purse. It saves lives. The overdose deaths are down. We need to keep going down. I greatly appreciate your help with all of this. My guest today is Dr. Mark Zimmerman, and he's from South County Psychiatry. Welcome, doctor, and thank you for joining us today.
Nice to meet you, John. Thank you for having me.
So, a lot of people, when they see me, they talk to me about psychiatry. Obviously, you know, as a doc here in Rhode Island, psychiatry is very limited to docs. We don't have a lot of docs in psychiatry. How has psychiatry changed in the 30 years that you've been in this business?
In terms of the patients being seen, it hasn't changed all that much.
Okay.
Individuals primarily come with complaints of stress, depression, and anxiety. In terms of the delivery of care, it's changed tremendously. Probably the impetus for that change was the development of Prozac, fluoxetine.
Okay.
It was the first antidepressant of the new generation of antidepressants that was safe to prescribe. Safe meaning if someone overdosed on it, they wouldn't die from it, which was not the case with the older generation of antidepressants. As a result, primary care physicians were much more confident and comfortable in prescribing antidepressants to their patients. Subsequently, there were a number of other medications that work similarly, but that was a major change. The prescription of antidepressant medications and anti-anxiety medications, because those medications are also effective for anxiety, to their patients without referring to a psychiatrist. The second major change, more recent, has been, as you just alluded to, an insufficient number of psychiatrists, and therefore so-called mid-level prescribers have become more frequent. Clinical nurse specialists, physician assistants have now also entered the psychiatry field, therefore expanding and increasing access to care.
Well, that's a good thing as far as access to care, because
Sure.
I'm hearing a lot of like adolescent children who need psychiatry. It's like a 1-year wait before you get in.
When we get into children, adolescents, yes, there's still a big backlog. In part, that's due to insufficient number of providers. In part, that's due to insufficient number of providers nationwide and insufficient reimbursement to go into that area of psychiatry, because there's a lot of coordination of care, coordination not only with parents but also with teachers and the educational system, and that doesn't get reimbursed. So therefore, if you can find a provider, often it's out of pocket, not going through insurance.
Right. So if a primary care doc, makes a prescription and then sends that individual over to you, are you able to adjust that prescription, or does that have to go back to the primary care doc for his evaluation?
Oh no, I can take over the prescribing, either continuing the medication that was prescribed. Of course, if they're sending them to me, probably the medication wasn't effective, and that's why they're sending them to me. So yes, I can take it over, I can change dosage, I can switch the medication, I can add something to it.
As far as your workload, has your workload increased with the amount of people that need psychiatry?
I'm the one who determines my workload. So even if there are more people in need, I have to figure out, as every physician needs to figure out, as every healthcare provider needs to figure out, work-life balance.
Yeah. You know, there's been a lot of conversations that I sit on all these committees about trying to get more primary care docs, get more psychiatry docs into the workforce. How do we do it? Do we give them a piece of education monies to help them with the financial burden because we don't pay well? Try to increase the pay to the docs. And I'm sure that in the group that you're in, a lot of conversations happen because, you go to school for many, many, many years and you have a big burden when you get out of school, financial burden.
Right.
Right? And now the MCOs, they don't want to pay for your service. It must be frustrating. I know it's frustrating for my folks in the substance use and mental health area. It was 20 years up until a couple of years ago that they got rate increases. How is it on the psychiatry end? Have you guys gotten a bump? Have you guys need a bump? And I know everybody can say, oh yeah, we could use a bump.
Need versus want.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So what is your field looking like as far as the financial capabilities and rate increases?
Rate increases come about on a yearly basis.
Okay.
They're modest, in keeping generally with inflation.
Right.
But it's of course not just general inflation. It's also the cost of having a practice, and one of those costs is paying for health insurance.
Right.
So, as you suggested, individuals leave medical school often with significant debt. And in this state, as you know, it's suffering from a lack of primary care physicians. So how does one solve that problem, especially when you read that one of the major insurance companies here, Blue Cross, ran a $100 million loss last year? It's easy for the docs to say, increase my pay. You need to reimburse more for the care that I deliver. But where is that money going to come from?
Right.
I can't help, when I went to medical school, some of my colleagues went into the armed services.
Right.
They would have medical school paid for. They might even get a stipend while in medical school, and then they had to pay back the services afterwards, both in residency and then after residency. They would have to provide care for a certain number of years.
Right.
I can't help but wonder, and this is admittedly above my pay grade, and I'm not involved in any kind of governmental discussions, but I can't help but wonder if the major hospital systems, which some actually will pay off loans for individuals who work in their system. I can't help but wonder if it's possible for the government and for hospital systems to get together, offer to pay for medical school in order for the provider to stay in the state for a certain number of years.
I want to talk more about that when we come back. We have to go on a break so I can pay the bills. But it's interesting that you would bring that up because I want to follow up with that because I have some questions and possibly some answers to that question. You're watching Recovery TV and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, Kodak. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Dr. Zimmerman is in the house. He's with the South County Psychiatry Group. Doc, thank you for joining us today. I want to talk a little bit about me and you are going to have a conversation about trying to retain docs. How do we do it? Well, one, obviously, you had a suggestion about paying off some of these loans to help these folks stay into Rhode Island. Maybe give X amount of years of service to Rhode Island to get them paid off. Specialty docs we need badly. A lot of times, too, they're referring out to Boston rather than keeping them in Rhode Island. The healthcare system, as I see it, what I deal with a lot of it, is on life support. And no pun intended. Not only here in Rhode Island, but throughout the country. We pay too much for drugs. We pay not enough for docs to stay where they belong as far as staying in the state. A lot of them are packing up, going across state lines, go to Massachusetts, Connecticut. Some are even going to the Midwest and some to the West Coast because of payments. So they can survive, pay off their loans, become productive, rather than just loan payment, loan payment, loan payment. What's your thought on that?
I think there are multiple issues related to whether or not someone stays. I remember when I was at Rhode Island Hospital and we were recruiting postdoctoral fellows and psychology interns, and I would speak to the committee, which I wasn't on, the Brown University Psychology Consortium Committee, and I told them flat out, one of the considerations I have when selecting someone is whether or not they were planning on staying. So this was part of their education. Right. The same holds true in recruiting residents. A friend of mine, a primary care physician, his daughter right now is applying for a staff position in OBGYN. And he's told certain people, she's going to stay, as you're considering who to take. Likewise for residency, when she applied for residency and actually didn't get a residency position here, got another well-regarded residency out of state, and he was trying to tell the individuals interviewing, she's going to stay. Why are you not giving that consideration? So yes, pay is important. Whether or not a person has connections to the area is important, and to what degree should that be factored into selecting individuals for residency here. And another consideration, once someone does go on to staff, is to what degree are you going to micromanage them, and to what degree are you going to be transparent about what's going on financially. And I can tell you in some of the systems here, that's not the case. Right. And individuals have felt taken advantage of.
Yeah, it happens all over the place. Let's switch subjects now. South County Psychiatry.
Okay.
Tell me what South County Psychiatry does.
Subsequently renamed as SCP because we're not affiliated with the South County Hospital.
Yeah, right.
We are a large and increasingly and growing outpatient practice. We have psychiatrists, nurse clinicians, therapists, psychologists in our general outpatient practice, and we also have an intensive outpatient program. Okay. An intensive outpatient program is designed to get people in quickly when they're not able to function like they normally can, when they're not able to keep up with their daily responsibilities, feeling too overwhelmed to work. Right. We want individuals to get better as quickly as possible. Previously I was the director of the partial hospital program at Rhode Island Hospital, and they recruited me to SCP to develop and run their intensive outpatient program, their IOP. And I brought with me a number of people from the partial hospital program to the IOP. We meet 5 days a week, and the average length of stay is 4 to 6 weeks. And individuals who come in who have not worked in a while, our goal is to get them back to work. One of the things that we're very interested in is the outcome of care. When COVID hit, 7, 8 years ago, we had to transition from in-person care to virtual telehealth. Yeah. And not only do I do clinical work, not only do I do administrative work, but I also do a fair amount of research. And one of the things I was interested in was whether or not delivering care in that virtual manner was as effective as delivering it in person. And we actually published several papers demonstrating equal efficacy of virtual care to in-person care. Working in an outpatient setting now post-COVID and an intensive outpatient setting post-COVID, most of the care I deliver is virtual because that's what patients prefer. Yeah. we haven't done the analysis yet, but I believe that what we will find is that our IOP program, which sees patients of the same level of severity that we were seeing in our partial hospital program, is as effective as the partial hospital program. Why is that important? Because it's half the cost.
Right.
So we can get people as well, as quickly as half the cost. Now the question is, are the insurance companies going to be paying any attention to that? Are they going to direct individuals in such a way so that they save money and patients will save money because they won't be hitting their deductibles or their co-pays as much?
Right.
It would be a win-win-win situation.
Yeah, I really truly think that the virtual appointments, in one hand, they're more convenient for folks. They don't have to leave their homes, especially people who have mental illness, because sometimes they're afraid to leave their homes.
Sometimes.
You know, and they can talk to the doc face to face, whether it's on a computer or a phone. I mean, I do most of my primary care doc visits with virtually. You know, if I have to go in for my yearly checkup, I go in for the yearly checkup.
Sure.
You know, but if I got a cold, I'm not feeling well, I pick up the phone and call them, boom, boom, boom. You know, next thing you know, we're on the phone talking about it. He writes a script, sends it over. I go pick it up, and I'm done. You know, whoever developed that system was brilliant during COVID. But it's staying.
Right.
It's staying.
Particularly in behavioral health.
Right. It's staying because it's working.
Because patients prefer it.
Right.
The convenience. And there are, like anything else, there are advantages and disadvantages.
Right.
I mean, one of the advantages is you see individuals in their home environment.
Right.
And that provides you with potentially clinically important information.
Right. Right. We're going to take another quick break. Then we'll come back and we'll talk all about SBC in a bit. You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, Kodak. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni, SCP. Dr. Zimmerman is in the house today, and he's a psychiatrist. Doc, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I'd love to have you come back because there's a lot to talk about in psychiatry.
A lot, yes.
You know, there's a lot of people have a lot of questions in the community. I would like to have you come also, and I'll talk to your group about coming and talk to our leadership council and all the people that are in the leadership council, because I get questions all the time about psychiatry and who do they call, how do they call it. So I'd love to have you come on at a board meeting one day and chat about that. Let's talk a little bit about how someone is watching this program today that needs to get in to see a psychiatrist. How do they do it?
Well, I can tell you how they can get into our practice.
Oh, absolutely.
They can call. The number to call is 343-4343.
Okay, very easy.
Hopefully easy to remember.
And what about online? If somebody wants to look your organization up?
They can go online, look up SCP Psychiatry, and they may also notice that not only do we deliver mental health care, we also have a weight and wellness program for individuals who are struggling with weight-related issues.
That's great. That's great. A well-versed organization.
Yes.
And I'm glad you're the chief.
I'm glad too.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming on today. Love to have you come back. There's a load of things that we could talk about. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are struggling.
And a lot of people are stressed. Our government doesn't seem to, speaking broadly, doesn't seem to be interested in reducing that stress.
Exactly. But thank you for coming on. Folks, next week my guest is Tommy Joyce and George O'Toole. We're going to be talking about different things going on in the state in recovery. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next week.